This is wave 88, flickering through the static, reaching out to whoever's still there. I'm Richard Radio, your voice in the dark, sitting in this creaky old booth with a mic and a faint hope that someone's listening. The world outside is, well, it's not the world we knew a week ago. If you're hearing this, you're hanging on, same as me. That's something. That's enough to keep me talking, to keep this signal alive for as long as the generator holds. Out. I don't know where you're, maybe hiding in a basement, maybe crouched in an attic, but if you're out there, this broadcast is for you. We're in this together, and I'm not going anywhere. It's been 6 days since they came. Not they, like in the movies, with little green men or flying saucers. No, these things, they're something else. Nobody saw them land, not really. One night, the sky just lit up, streaks of violet and silver cutting through the clouds, like a torn canvas. Then the power grids went down, phones went silent, and by morning, entire towns were empty. Not abandoned, not exactly. Just gone. People, animals, even the birds vanished. And in their place, something new started spreading. We're calling it the pulse, for lack of a better word. It's not a disease, not a virus, but it moves like one, changing everything it touches. I'm broadcasting from a small station in what used to be Willow Creek, a nowhere town off Route 17. The station's on a hill, which is probably why I'm still here. The pulse hasn't reached this high up, not yet. Down in the valley, though, things are different. I can see it from the window patches of ground, glowing faintly like embers under ash. The air down there feels wrong, heavy, like it's carrying something you can't see. A few days ago, I got a call from a woman named Lena, hiding in a barn just outside town. She said the fields around her were pulsing, not just glowing, but moving, like the earth itself was breathing. She hasn't called back since. Let's talk about what we know, or at least what I've pieced together from the folks who've reached out. The pulse started in the city's first big places like New Haven and Port Ellis. It spread fast, faster than anyone could track. By day 2, whole neighborhoods were silent. Not the quiet of people staying inside, but the kind where you know. Nobody's left. Survivors started calling in, their voices shaky through the static. They talked about seeing shapes in the streets, not people, not animals, but something in between. Taller than a person, with limbs that bend wrong, moving like they're gliding instead of walking. Nobody's gotten close enough to describe them clearly. Nobody who has is still talking. One of the first to call was a guy named Tom, a truck driver stuck at a rest stop on Route 42. He'd been hauling freight when the invasion hit, and he saw Port Ellis go dark from the highway. He told me the pulse wasn't just taking people, it was changing them. He saw a group of folks wandering out of the city, moving slow, their skin pale and their eyes. He said their eyes were glowing, not bright but faint, like dying flashlights. They didn't attack him, didn't even seem to notice him, but he said they were heading somewhere, all in the same direction, like they were being called. Tom's still out there, or he was as of yesterday. He's keeping low, moving from one hiding spot to another, but he's running out of gas and luck. Then there's Maya, a school teacher from New Haven. She's been calling in every night, giving me updates on her group. They're holed up in an old library, one of those brick buildings with thick walls and no windows on the ground floor. Maya says the pulse hasn't reached their street yet, but they can hear it low hum in the air, like a distant engine that never stops. Her groups got 9 people, including 2 kids. They've been rationing canned soup and crackers, but the bigger problem is the water. The pipes stopped working on day 3, and the only stream nearby is starting to glow. Maya's trying to keep the kids calm, reading them stories, but she says the hum is getting louder every night. Last night, she told me one of the kids, a boy named Eli, started humming along with it, like it was a song he knew. She's scared he's picking up on something the rest of them can't hear. The government's been trying to respond, but it's a mess. I've been picking up fragments of official broadcasts on a shortwave radio. Most of it's garbled, but what's clear isn't good. They've set up quarantine zones, big ones, along the coast and up north in the mountains. The idea was to gather survivors, keep the pulse out, but it's not working. I got a call from a man named Victor, who made it to one of these zones near Lake Merrow. He said it was chaos tense everywhere, soldiers shouting, people fighting over the last of the supplies. The soldiers were testing everyone for signs of the pulse, using some kind of handheld scanner, but Victor said the scanners kept giving false positives. People were being dragged away, even if they seemed fine. By the time Victor called me, he'd already slipped out of the zone, back into the woods. He didn't trust the soldiers, and I can't say I blame him, the militaries. Doing more than just setting up camps. They've been running operations airstrikes, mostly, targeting areas where the pulse is strongest. From what I've heard, they're using some kind of incendiary weapon, something that burns hotter than anything I've ever seen. A woman named Carla, calling from a rooftop in Port Alice, said she saw one of these strikes hit a neighborhood. A mile away. The fire didn't just burn, it spread, like it was alive, eating through buildings and streets. She said the pulse didn't stop, though. The glowing patches in the ground came back, brighter than before, and the shapes she saw in the streets started moving faster, like the fire woke them up. Carla's still up on that rooftop, but her last call was cut off mid-sentence. I'm hoping it was just static. Here's the thing nobody's saying out loud. The pulse isn't just spreading, it's learning. Survivors keep telling me the same thing, over and over. The shapes they see, the ones gliding through the streets, aren't just wandering. They're watching, waiting. A man named Owen, hiding in a warehouse on the edge of New Haven, said he saw one of them stop outside his hiding spot. It didn't break in, didn't make a sound, just stood there, its head tilted like it was listening. Owen stayed still for hours, barely breathing, until it finally moved on. He's convinced it knew he was there, that it was testing him. He's been moving every night since, never staying in one place too long. I've been thinking about what this means for us, the ones still here. The pulse isn't just taking over, it's changing the rules. The air feels different now, heavier, like it's carrying a weight we can't see. The sky's still there, still blue in places, but it's not the same. Sometimes at night, I see those streaks of violet and silver again, fainter now, like echoes of whatever started this. I don't know if they're signals or warnings, or just the last gasp of a world we're losing. All I know is I've got to keep talking, keep this signal going, because as long as you're listening, we're not alone. Let's talk about the people I've heard from today, because their stories are what keep me going. There's a woman named Rachel, a nurse who's been moving between safe houses in a small town called Elton. She's been trying to help the injured, but it's getting harder. The pulse doesn't just affect people, it affects everything. Wounds don't heal right anymore, she says. Cuts that should close up in a day stay open, and sometimes they start to glow, faint at first, then brighter. Rachel's been using what supplies she has, but she's running low on bandages, and the pharmacies in Elton are either looted or too dangerous to reach. She's got a small group with her, mostly elderly folks who can't move fast. They're relying on her, and she's doing her best, but she's tired. Her last call was quiet, like she didn't want anyone to hear her. She said she's not sure how much longer she can keep them safe. Then there's a kid named Sam, maybe 16, calling from a gas station off Route 19. He's alone, which is the part that gets me. He said his family was with him when the pulse hit, but they're gone now, didn't say how, and I didn't ask. Sam's been surviving by scavenging, moving at night, keeping the lights off. He found an old CB radio in the gas station's back room, which is how he reached me. He's smarter than most, but he's scared. He told me he saw one. Of the shapes up close, closer than he wanted. It was in the parking lot, just standing there, its body shimmering like heat off pavement. Sam said it didn't have a face, not really just a smooth surface where a face should be. He hid behind a shelf, held his breath, and it left. He's planning to move on tonight, head north, but he's not sure where to go. I told him to stay, sharp to listen for my signal. I hope he does. I've also been hearing from a group in the mountains, led by a woman named Nora. They're in an old ranger station, high enough that the pulse hasn't reached them yet. Nora's group is small, just 6 people, but they're organized. They've got a stockpile of food, a generator, and a clear view of the valley below. Nora says the pulse is moving like a tide, spreading out from the cities and creeping up. The slopes. She's been watching it through binoculars, marking its progress on a map. The glowing patches are getting closer every day, and she's not sure how long their station will stay safe. Still, she's keeping her group together, giving them tasks to stay busy. She's got a calm way about her, like she's seen worse. And come through it. I'm hoping she's right. The military's still out there too, but it's hard to know what they're doing. I picked up a broadcast this morning, some kind of emergency alert, but it was mostly static. From what I could make out, they're planning another round of strikes, this time targeting the highways. The idea is to cut off the pulse's spread, stop it from moving between cities. But if you ask me, they're just guessing. The pulse doesn't follow roads, it goes where it wants. A man named Derek, calling from a farmhouse near Route 17, said he saw a military convoy roll through yesterday. They were heading toward New Haven, heavily armed, but they didn't stop to help anyone. Derek waved them down, but they just kept going. He's not sure if they were running toward something or away from it. I keep thinking about what this world's becoming. 6 days ago, I was worrying about paying bills, fixing the leak in my roof, maybe grabbing a coffee at the diner in town. Now I'm sitting here, talking into a mic, hoping the generator doesn't quit. The pulse is changing everything, people, places, even the air we breathe. But it's not just the pulse. It's us too. The ones still here, still fighting. People, like Lena, Tom, Maya, Rachel, Sam, Nora, they're not giving up. They're scared, tired, running low on everything, but they're still going. That's what keeps me here, keeps this signal alive. As long as you're out there, listening, I've got a reason to keep talking. Before I wrap up this part, I want to say something to you, whoever you are. If you're hearing this, you are not alone. I know it feels like the world's falling apart, like there's no way out, but you're still here. That matters. Keep moving, keep hiding, keep fighting. And if you can, find a way to reach me. This station's old, but it's still got range. Tell me where you are, what you're seeing. Your story might help someone else, might keep them going. We're all we've got now, so let's hold on to that. I'm still here, talking into this mic, hoping my voice is reaching you through the static. It's day 7 now, and the pulse is moving faster than I can keep up with. The story's coming. And from survivors are piling up, and they're painting a picture that's hard to ignore. Whatever this thing is, it's not just spreading its thinking. I've been hearing from folks all day, and they're seeing things that don't make sense, things that make you wonder what we're really up against. Let's dive into what's happening out there, because your stories are what keep this signal alive. First, let's check in with Maya, the school teacher in New Haven. She called again this morning, whispering into the radio like she was afraid someone or something might hear her. Her group's still barricaded in that old library, but it's getting rough. The hum from the pulse is stronger now, loud enough to shake the dust off the shelves. It's not just noise anymore. It's starting to mess with their heads. Maya says the kids are taking it the hardest, especially Eli, the boy who was humming along with it. He's not talking much now, just sitting in a corner, rocking back and forth, matching the pulse's rhythm. Maya tried to snap him out of it, reading to him, even singing, but he just stares through her. The other kid, Sophie, won't go near him anymore. She told Maya she saw Eli's eyes glow faintly last night, just for a second. Maya's not sure if Sophie's imagining things, but it's got everyone on edge. Food's running low, maybe 3 days worth of cans left, and the water's a bigger problem. The stream nearby is glowing brighter, and yesterday one of the adults, Greg, brushed against it while scouting. His arms swollen now, with thin, glowing veins spreading under his skin. Maya's keeping him in a separate room, but she's scared. She asked me if I'd heard anything about a cure. I didn't have the heart to tell her I haven't. I just told her to keep calling, to keep her group together. I'm hoping she can, out on Route 29. Javier's still holding out in that diner. He called in a few hours ago, and his voice was steady but tight, like he's forcing himself to stay calm. He's been watching the shapes through a gap in the boarded-up windows, and he's convinced they're not just wandering anymore. Last night, he saw a group of them, maybe 6 stop in the middle of the street. They didn't move for a solid 10 minutes, just stood there, heads tilted like they were listening to something Javier couldn't hear. Then they split up, each one taking a different direction, moving like they had a purpose. Javier says it felt like they were mapping the area, checking for something. He's been in that diner for 4 days now, living off whatever's left. In the kitchen, mostly stale bread and canned soda. The shapes keep coming back, closer each time, and he's not sure if they know he's there. He's planning to move tonight, maybe head toward the hills, but the roads are tricky. The pulse has left patches of glowing ground all over, and Javier says stepping on them feels like walking through mud that pulls you down. I told him to stick to the shadows and call me when he's safe. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Nora's group up in the mountains is still hanging on, but they're feeling the pressure. She called this afternoon, and her usual calm was starting to crack. The glowing patches she's been tracking are closer now, less than a mile from the ranger station. What's weird is how they're spreading not like a spill, but in straight lines, almost like someone's drawing a grid. Nora's been marking it on a map, and she says it's too precise to be random. Last night, one of her group, a guy named Lee, went out to check the perimeter. He came back shaken, said he saw one of the shapes standing at the edge of the tree line. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, just watched him. Lee swore it wasn't there when he started his patrol, like it appeared out of nowhere. Norris, keeping everyone inside now, and they're doubling up on watches. Their food supply's okay for another week, but the generator's starting to sputter. If it goes, they'll lose their radio, and I'll lose them. Nora's tough, though. She's keeping her group focused, giving them small jobs to stay busy. I told her to keep mapping the pulse's spread. It might help someone, maybe even us. Out on Route 19, Sam, the kid at the gas station, called again. He's still alone, which hits me harder every time I hear from him. He's been moving at night, scavenging what he can, but he's running low on everything. He found a flashlight in the gas station's storage room, but the batteries are weak, and he's saving it for emergencies. Last night, he had a close call. He was crossing a parking lot when he saw one of the shapes, closer than he'd ever seen one. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with a body that shimmered like oil on water. Sam said it didn't have a face, just a smooth, blank surface where eyes should be. It was standing by a burned-out car, not moving, but Sam felt like it knew he was. There, he ducked behind a dumpster and stayed there for an hour, barely breathing, until it glided away. He's heading north now, toward a town called Redding, hoping to find other survivors. I told him to avoid the main roads and keep his radio on. He's just a kid, but he's got more grit than most. I'm rooting for him. Rachel, the nurse in Alton, is still out there too, moving between safe houses with her group of elderly folks. She called this morning, and she sounded exhausted. She's been patching people up as best she can, but the pulse is making it harder. Wounds aren't healing like they should. Cuts get infected fast, and some start glowing, like Greg's arm. In New Haven. Rachel's seen it in 2 of her group now, and she's had to quarantine them in a separate room. She's running out of supplies, bandages, antiseptic, even basic painkillers. The pharmacies in Elton are either empty or too risky to reach, and the pulse is closing in. Rachel says the air in town feels thicker now, like it's pressing down. On her chest, one of her group, an old man named Walter, keeps saying he hears voices in the hum, telling him to walk toward the glowing patches. Rachel's keeping him close, but she's worried he'll wander off. She's trying to stay strong for her group, but I can hear the strain in her voice. I told her she's doing more than most would, and to keep calling me. I hope it helps. The military's still active, but it's hard to piece together what they're doing. I caught another emergency broadcast last night, clearer than the last one, but not by much. They're setting up more checkpoints, mostly. Along the highways, trying to stop the pulse from spreading. From what I can tell, it's not working. A woman named Diane, hiding in a motel near Route 42, called in about a checkpoint she saw yesterday. She said it was a mess, soldiers yelling, people lined up, everyone getting scanned with some kind of device. Diane watched from a distance, through binoculars, and said the soldiers were pulling people out of line, even ones who looked healthy. She heard screams, then gunshots, and the line broke into chaos. Diane didn't stick around to see what happened next. She's moving east now, staying off the roads, but she's alone, and her last call was shaky. I told her to find cover and keep her radio on. I'm not sure if she heard me. The military's also stepping up their airstrikes. A man named Curtis, calling from a barn outside Port Alice, said he saw one hit a nearby town last night. The sky lit up red, and the ground shook so hard he thought the barn would collapse. Curtis said the fire didn't just burn, it spread, like it was chasing something. He watched through a crack in the wall as the glowing patches in the fields flared brighter, like they were feeding off the flames. The shapes started moving faster after that, gliding through the smoke like it didn't bother them. Curtis is planning to stay put for now, but he's low on food, and the barn's not as safe as it used to be. He said the pulse is changing the animals. Too, he saw a dog yesterday, its fur glowing faintly, moving like it was stalking him. I told him to barricade the doors and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping he makes it. What's starting to scare me more than the shapes more than the glowing patches is how the pulse is adapting. Survivors keep saying the same thing. It's not just spreading, it's learning. A woman named Tara, hiding in an abandoned school in Reading, called in with a story that's been stuck in my head. She said she saw one of the shapes outside the school 2 nights ago. It wasn't moving, just standing in the playground, its head tilted like it was studying the building. Tara was watching from a second-floor window, holding her breath, when it suddenly turned and looked right at her. She swears it saw her, even through the dark, even through the glass. It didn't come closer, didn't make a sound, just stared for a minute, then glided away. Tara's been moving rooms every night since, never sleeping in the same place. Twice. She's convinced the shapes are testing her, trying to figure out how she thinks. I told her to keep moving, to stay unpredictable. I don't know if that's enough. I've been thinking about what this means for us, the ones still here. The pulse isn't just changing the world, it's changing how we survive. The old rules don't work anymore. You can't just hide and wait it out, because the pulse finds you. You can't trust the air, the water, even the ground you walk on. But the survivors I'm hearing from, people like Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Rachel, Tara, they're not giving up. They're scared, they're tired, but they're still fighting. That's what keeps me here, keeps this mic on. Every call I get, every voice that breaks through the static, reminds me why I'm doing this. You're out there listening, and that's enough to keep me going. Before I sign off, I want to talk about something new I heard today. A man named Paul, calling from a church in a town called Fairview, said he picked up a strange signal on his radio last night. It wasn't one of mine, and it wasn't the military's. It was faint, full of static, but he caught a few words, something about a haven in a place called Sector 7. Paul's not sure if it's real or just a trick, but he's planning to head that way, see if there's anything to it. He's got a small group with him, and they're desperate for hope. I told him to be careful, to keep his radio on, and to let me know what he finds. I'm not sure what to make of it myself. Safe haven sounds too good to be true, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'll keep you posted if I hear more talking altogether. Maya says he just sits there, staring at the wall, like he's listening to something nobody else can hear. The group's down to their last 2 cans of food, and the water's gone. There, trying to collect rainwater, but the air feels wrong, and Maya's worried it's not safe. She's holding the group together by sheer will, but I can tell she's close to breaking. I told her to keep the doors locked and to call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she can hang on. Javier, out in that diner on Route 29, called again this afternoon. He made it out last night, just like he planned, but it wasn't easy. He waited until the shapes moved off, then slipped out the back door, sticking to alleys and avoiding the glowing patches. He's in an old auto shop now, about a mile from the diner, hiding in the office with the shutters down. He says the shapes are still out there, moving in those eerie patterns. This morning, he saw something new. One of the shapes was carrying something, a small, glowing orb about the size of a baseball. Javier couldn't tell what it was, but the shape held it carefully, like it was important. He watched it place the orb on the ground, and the spot started glowing, just like the patches. Javier's starting to think the shapes are planting these things, spreading the pulse on purpose. He's planning to stay put for now, but the auto shop's not much safer than the diner. The windows are cracked, and he's hearing noises at night, scraping sounds, like something's testing the walls. I told him to keep quiet and call me when he moves again. I'm rooting for him. Nora's group in the mountains is feeling the pulse closing in. She called this evening, and her voice was sharp, like she's running on adrenaline. The glowing patches are less than half a mile from their ranger station now, and they're spreading faster, still in those strange straight lines. Nora's been watching through binoculars, and she saw something that's got her rattled. Yesterday, one of the shapes appeared on the slope below the station, closer than any had been before. It wasn't gliding like the others, it was digging, clawing at the ground with its long, bent limbs. When it stopped, the spot it touched started glowing. Nora's convinced the shapes are marking territory, or maybe setting up something worse. Her group's generator is acting up too. It cut out for an hour last night, and they lost their lights and radio. They got it running again, but Nora's worried it won't last. Food's still okay, but morale's slipping. Lee, the guy who saw the shape in the tree line, keeps saying they should leave, but Nora's not sure where they'd go. The pulse is everywhere below them, and the roads are blocked with abandoned cars. I told her to keep mapping the patches, and to stay strong. She's got a good head on her shoulders, but I can hear the doubt creeping in. Sam, the kid on Route 19, is still out there, and every time he calls, I'm amazed he's still going. He reached Redding last night, or what's left of it. He's hiding in an empty hardware store, surrounded by shelves of nails and paint cans. He says the town's quiet to quiet. No people, no animals, just the hum of the pulse in the air. He found a couple of granola bars in the break room, but that's all he's got for now. What's got him spooked is what he saw on his way into town. A group of shapes, maybe 10, moving together like a pack. They weren't wandering, they were searching, checking buildings, peering into windows. Sam hid in a ditch until they passed. But he swears one of them stopped and turned toward him, like it sensed something. He's planning to head north again, toward a lake he heard about, but he's moving slower now. His shoes are falling apart, and he's got a cut on his leg that's not healing right. I told him to clean it as best he can, and to keep his radio close. He's just 16, but he's tougher than most. I'm hoping he makes it. Rachel, the nurse in Elton, called this morning, and she sounded like she hadn't slept in days. Her group of elderly folks is still hanging on, but the pulse is making things harder. 2 more of her group are showing signs of the glow, now faint lines under their skin, starting at their hands and creeping up their arms. Rachel's had to move them to a separate room, but space is tight and everyone's scared. She's out of bandages, and the last pharmacy she tried to reach was overrun with glowing patches. She says the air in Elton is getting heavier, like it's hard to breathe, and Walter, the old man who heard voices, tried to leave last night. He said the hum was calling him, telling him to find the light. Rachel caught him at the door and brought him back, but she's worried he'll try again. She's doing everything she can, but she's one person, and the weight's getting to her. I told her she's a hero to those people, and to keep calling me. I hope it gives her something to hold on to. The military's still out there, but their efforts are starting to feel desperate. I picked up another emergency broadcast last night, and it was clearer this time, but not in a good way. They're planning more airstrikes, targeting not just cities but smaller towns now, places like Redding and Elton. They're calling it a containment sweep, but from what survivors are saying, it's doing more harm than good. A man named Ethan, hiding in a church basement near Port Alice, called in about a strike he saw 2 nights ago. The fire burned for hours, and the shapes didn't even slow down. They moved through it, faster than before, like the flames were nothing. Ethan says the glowing patches spread after the strike, covering more ground than they had before. He's planning to stay in the basement, but the church is old, and the walls are starting to crack. He's got a small group with him, and they're rationing what little they have. I told him to reinforce the doors and keep his radio on. I'm not sure what else to say. Then there's Paul, the guy in Fairview who heard about Sector 7. He called again this afternoon, and he's on the move now, heading toward where he thinks this haven might be. He's got 3 others with him, a woman named Claire and her 2 kids, both under 10. Paul says the signal he picked up was stronger last night, but it's still garbled, and he's not sure if it's a trap. They're traveling light, sticking to back roads, but the pulse is everywhere. Paul says the kids are scared but tough, carrying their own bags and keeping quiet. Last night, they hid in an abandoned gas station, and Claire saw one of the shapes outside holding one of those glowing orbs Javier mentioned. She said it placed the orb in the ground, and the whole area started humming louder. Paul's group got out before anything else happened, but they're running low on water. I told him to be careful and to let me know if he finds Sector 7. I want to believe it's real, but I'm not holding my breath. Something else is starting to stand out in the calls I'm getting. The pulse isn't just affecting people, it's changing the world itself. A woman named Leela, hiding in a farmhouse near Route 17, called in with a story that's hard to shake. She says the plants around her farm are different now. The grass is glowing faintly, and the trees are twisting, their branches bending in ways that don't look natural. She tried to pick some vegetables from her garden yesterday, but they crumbled in her hands like they were made of ash. Leela's been drinking from a well, but even that's starting to taste strange, metallic. She's alone, except for a cat. That's been sticking close, but even the cat's acting off. Its eyes glow at night, and it keeps staring at the glowing patches. Leela's planning to leave the farm tomorrow, head toward a town called Millwood, but she's not sure what she'll find. I told her to avoid the glowing areas and call me when she's safe. I'm hoping she makes it. The shapes are getting bolder. 2. A man named Marcus, hiding in an old factory on the edge of New Haven, called in with a story that's been playing on my mind. He says he saw one of the shapes up close last night, closer than he wanted. He was scavenging for supplies in a nearby warehouse when he turned a corner, and there it was, standing in the middle of the aisle. It was tall, shimmering, with that blank, smooth face. Marcus froze, and for a moment he thought it was going to come for him. But it didn't. It just tilted its head, like it was studying him, then raised one of its limbs. Marcus says it wasn't a hand, not really, more like a cluster of tendrils twitching in the air. He backed away slowly, and it let him go, but he's convinced it was testing him, seeing what he'd do. He's back in the factory now, but he's not sleeping. He says the shapes are outside every night, circling the building. I told him to stay low and keep moving. I don't know what else to tell him. I've been thinking about what all this means. The pulse isn't just a force, it's a system, like it's building something. The glowing patches, the orbs, the shapes, patterns, it's all connected, but I can't see the whole picture yet. What I do know is that the survivors out there, Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Rachel, Paul, Leela, Marcus, they're not just fighting to stay alive. They're fighting to understand, to adapt. Every call I get is a reminder that we're still here, still human, still holding on. That's why I keep this mic on, why I keep talking. You're out there listening, and that's enough to keep me going. Before I wrap up, I want to share one more story. A woman named Anna, calling from a rooftop in Port Alice, reached out last night. She's been up there for 3 days, living off a backpack of supplies she grabbed when the pulse hit. She says the city's almost unrecognizable now. The streets are covered in glowing patches, and the shapes are everywhere. But what got my attention was what she saw yesterday. A group of shapes, maybe a dozen, gathered in a plaza below her. They weren't moving or searching, they were standing in a circle, each holding one of those glowing orbs. Anna says the air around them started to shimmer like a heat wave, and the hum got so loud it made her teeth hurt. She doesn't know what they were doing, but she's convinced it wasn't random. She's planning to stay on the rooftop for now, but her supplies are running low, and the shapes are starting to climb the buildings. I told her to stay quiet and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she's still there, alive, but he doesn't respond when she calls his name. The rest of the group is falling apart. Sophie's stopped talking, and the adults are arguing about whether to stay or try to run. Maya's not sure how much longer she can keep them together. The library's doors are holding, but the hum feels like it's inside their heads now, and Maya says she's starting to hear whispers in it, too faint to make out. I told her to stay strong, to keep Eli locked up, and to call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she can hold on, but it's hard to stay hopeful when she sounds so lost. Javier's still in that auto shop on Route 29, but he's not sure how much longer he can stay. He called this afternoon, and he was whispering like he was afraid the shapes might hear him. He's been watching them through the shutters, and he says they're getting more active. Last night, he saw two shapes place another one of those glowing orbs in the street outside. The ground started humming louder, and a new patch of glowing earth spread out from the spot faster than before. Javier's starting to think the orbs are some kind of device, maybe controlling the pulse or powering it. He's been hearing noises around the shop's soft taps, like something's brushing against the walls. He's barricaded the doors with old tires and shelves, but he's low on food, down to a single can of beans. He's planning to move again tonight, maybe head toward a small town called Benton he heard had survivors. I told him to avoid the glowing patches and to move quietly. He's tough, but I can hear the fear in his voice now. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for him. Nora's group up in the mountains is facing trouble. She called this evening, and her usual steadiness was fraying. The glowing patches are less than a quarter-mile from the ranger station now, and they're spreading in those eerie, straight lines. Nora says it's like the pulse is building something, maybe a network. Yesterday, Lee went out to check the perimeter again, against Nora's orders. He came back pale, saying he saw three shapes working together, dragging something heavy across the ground. It looked like a piece of metal, twisted and glowing, but Lee couldn't tell what it was for. The shapes moved like they knew exactly what they were doing, not random at all. Nora's group is rationing their food tightly now, and the generators. On its last legs, it cuts out for hours at a time. Last night, they lost their lights completely, and Nora says the darkness made the hum feel louder, like it was pressing in. She's trying to keep her group calm, but Lee's pushing to leave, and others are starting to agree. Nora's not sure where they'd go. The pulse is thick in the valleys below. I told her to keep her map updated, and to stay put if she can. She's the glue holding them together, but I can tell it's wearing her down. Sam, the kid in Reading, called again, and I'm amazed he's still out there. He's still in that hardware store, but he's not alone anymore. Last night, he found another survivor, a woman named Tess, hiding in the store's back room. She's in her 30s, a mechanic who got trapped in Reading when the pulse hit. Tess has been scavenging in the town, and she's got a backpack with some food and a first aid kit, which is good news for Sam's leg. The cut's still not healing right, and Tess says it's starting to glow faintly, just at the edges. She's been cleaning it with alcohol wipes, but they're running low. Sam says Tess is sharp, always listening, and she's seen the shapes. Up close, too. She told him they don't just move in patterns, they communicate, not with sounds, but with flashes of light from their bodies. Tess saw a group of shapes in an alley, their shimmering surfaces pulsing in sync, like they were sharing information. Sam and Tess are planning to head north to that lake tomorrow, but the town's crawling with shapes, and the glowing patches are spreading. I told them to stick together and call me when they move. Sam sounds a little steadier with Tess around, and I'm hoping they can keep each other going. Rachel in Elton is still fighting to keep her group alive. She called this morning, and her voice was heavy, like she's carrying too much. The two elderly folks with glowing veins are worse now. The glow spread to their faces, and they're not talking anymore. Rachel's had to lock them in a shed behind the safe house, which feels wrong to her, but she's out of options. Walter, the man who heard voices, slipped out last night. Rachel found him a block away, standing in a glowing patch, staring at the sky. She pulled him back, but he kept saying, "They're calling me home." Rachel's tied him to a bed for now, but she's running out of strength. The air in Elton is so thick it's hard to breathe, and the group's down to their last bottle of water. Rachel tried scavenging yesterday, but the streets are covered in glowing patches, and she saw a shape watching her from a rooftop. She's not sure if it followed her back. I told her she's doing more than anyone could ask, and to keep calling me. She's a lifeline for those people, but I'm worried she's close to breaking. The military's efforts are falling apart. I caught another broadcast last night, and it was grim. They're pulling back from smaller towns like Reading and Elton, focusing on the big cities New Haven, Port Alice, places where the pulse is strongest. The containment sweeps are still happening, but they're sloppy. A man named Victor, hiding in a trailer park near Route 42, called in about a strike he saw last night. The bombs hit a nearby town, and the fire spread so fast it reached the trailer park's edge. Victor says the shapes didn't even flinch. They moved through the flames, their bodies shimmering brighter, like the fire was feeding them. The glowing patches spread after the strike, covering the roads and making it impossible to leave. Victor's group is small, just 4 people, and they're low on everything. He's planning to stay put, but the trailer park's exposed, and the shapes are getting closer. I told him to cover the windows and keep his radio on. I'm not sure what else to say. Paul's group, heading toward Sector 7, is still moving. He called this afternoon, and he sounded cautious but hopeful. He's with Claire and her 2 kids, and they've made it to a small town called Ashwood, about halfway to where Paul thinks Sector 7 might be. The signal about the haven came through again last night, clearer this time, but it's still fragmented. Paul caught a few more words, something about resistance and coordinates. He's not sure if it's a safe zone or a trap, but it's the only lead they've got. The kids are holding up, but Claire's worried about them. They're quiet, too quiet, and the younger one keeps staring at the glowing patches they pass. Paul's group found a stream yesterday, but the water's glowing faintly, so they didn't touch it. They're down to a few bottles and some granola bars. Last night, they hid in an abandoned school, and Paul saw a shape outside, holding a glowing orb. It didn't see them, but it placed the orb in the ground, and the hum got louder. Paul's group left at dawn, but he's worried the shapes are tracking them. I told him to keep moving and call me when he gets closer to Sector 7. I want to believe there's something out there for them. The pulse is changing more than just people and plants now. A man named Henry, hiding in a warehouse near Port Ellis, called in with a story that's hard to process. He says the buildings around him are starting to change. The warehouse's walls are cracking, but not like normal wear. There are glowing lines running through them, like veins. Henry says it's not just his building. He's seen it and others too. The concrete's softening in places, almost like it's melting, and the air inside smells sharp, like ozone. Henry's been hearing noises in the warehouse, low hums. Not from the pulse, but from the walls themselves. He's alone, except for a radio he found in the office, and he's starting to think the pulse is rewriting the world, not just taking it over. He's planning to leave tomorrow, head toward the coast, but the streets are thick with shapes. I told him to stay quiet and call me when he's safe. I'm hoping he can get out. The shapes are getting more organized, and it's starting to feel like they're building something bigger. A woman named Carla, hiding in a gas station on Route 17, called in with a story that stuck with me. She says she saw a group of shapes, maybe 15 gathered in a field last night. They were arranged in a perfect circle, each holding a glowing orb, and the ground between them was pulsing, not just glowing, but moving like it was alive. Carla says the air above them shimmered, and for a moment she saw something in the sky, a faint outline, huge, like a structure that wasn't fully there. She's not sure what it was, but it scared her enough to stay hidden all day. She's low on food, and the gas station's windows are cracked, but she's too afraid to move. I told her to stay low and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she's okay. I've been thinking about what we're up against. The pulse isn't just a takeover, it's a transformation. The orbs, the glowing patches, the shapes, patterns, the changing buildings, it's all part of something we don't understand. But the survivors, Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Tess, Rachel, Paul, Henry, Carla, they're still fighting, still adapting. Every call I get reminds me why I'm here, why this signal matters. You're out there, holding on, and that's enough to keep me talking. Before I sign off, I want to share one more thing. A man named Owen, calling from a rooftop in New Haven, reached out last night. He's been up there 4 days, watching the city fall apart. He says the shapes are building something in the city center, a structure, huge, made of glowing metal and pulsing earth. Owen's not sure what it is, but he's seen shapes carrying pieces to it, working together like they're following a plan. He's low on supplies, and the rooftop's exposed, but he's too scared to climb down. I told him to stay hidden and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping he makes it, and I'm hoping he's wrong about what he saw, just curling up in a corner and whispering to herself. Maya's trying to keep everyone calm, but the adults are panicking, and one of them, a woman named Karen, tried to run yesterday. Maya stopped her at the door, but Karen keeps saying they're all going to die if they stay. The library's walls are starting to glow faintly, thin lines creeping through the bricks like cracks. Maya's not sure if it's the pulse or something. Eli's doing, but it's scaring everyone. She asked me what to do, but I didn't have an answer. I told her to keep the doors locked and call me tomorrow. Her voice was so tired, I'm worried she's losing hope. Javier made it to Benton, the town he was aiming for, but it's not the safe spot he'd hoped. He called this afternoon, hiding in the basement of a small grocery store. He says Benton's quiet, but not in a good way. Most of the buildings are covered in glowing patches, and the air feels thick, like it's hard to move through. He saw shapes patrolling the streets, more than he's ever seen, moving in pairs and carrying those glowing orbs. Yesterday, he watched one place an orb in the middle of a park, and the ground around it started pulsing, spreading new glowing patches in minutes. Javier's convinced the shapes are turning the town into something else, maybe a hub for the pulse. He's got a little food, some crackers, and a jar of pickles he found, but the store's not secure. The windows upstairs are broken, and he's hearing footsteps at night, not human ones. He's planning to move again, maybe toward a river he heard about, but the glowing patches are everywhere. I told him to stay low and call me when he's safe. He's hanging on, but I can tell it's getting harder. Nora's group in the mountains is in trouble. She called this evening, and her voice was sharp with worry. The glowing patches are right at the edge of their ranger station now, so close they can see them from the windows. The shapes are bolder. 2 last night. 2 of them stood just outside the station, not moving, just watching. Nora says their shimmering bodies were pulsing with light, like they were signaling something. The generator finally gave out this morning, and they're down to flashlights and a small battery-powered radio. Without the generator, they've lost their heater, and the nights are getting cold. Lee's still pushing to leave, and now another. Group member, a woman named Diane, is agreeing with him. Nora's worried they'll try to go on their own, splitting the group. Food's running low, maybe 3 days left, and the glowing patches are blocking the only path down the mountain. Nora's been sketching the shape's movements, and she says they're forming a perimeter, like they're trapping the station. I told her to keep everyone together and call me tomorrow. She's strong, but I can hear the strain. Sam and Tess are still together, moving toward the lake north of Redding. They called this morning, and Sam sounded a bit steadier with Tess watching his back. They're hiding in an abandoned farmhouse now, about halfway to the lake. Tess patched up Sam's leg with the last of her first aid kit, but the glow around the cut is brighter, and it's starting to spread. Tess says it doesn't hurt, but Sam's scared it's changing him. They found a little food in the farmhouse, some canned peaches and a bag of rice, but the water's a problem. The well outside is glowing, and they're down to 1 bottle. Between them, Tess saw something strange last night. A group of shapes, maybe 8, gathered in a field nearby. They weren't placing orbs, they were building something, piling glowing metal pieces into a structure that looked like a tower. But not quite. Tess says it was humming, louder than the pulse, and the air around it felt heavy. They're planning to move at dawn, but the shapes are everywhere, and Sam's leg is slowing them down. I told them to stick together and call me when they reach the lake. I'm hoping Tess's smarts and Sam's grit can get them through. Rachel, in Elton, is barely holding on. She called this afternoon, and her voice was so quiet I had to turn up the radio to hear her. Walter, the old man who heard voices, got out again last night. Rachel found him in a glowing patch, kneeling, his hands in the dirt. She pulled him back, but his skin's starting to glow now, and he's not fighting her anymore, just sits. They're smiling like he's somewhere else. The other 2 with glowing veins are gone. Rachel woke up to find their shed empty, with glowing footprints leading into the street. The safe house is falling apart, the walls are cracking, and the air's so heavy it's making everyone dizzy. Rachel's group is out of water, and the food's gone. She tried scavenging again, but a shape followed her back, stopping just outside the safe house. She's not sure if it's still there, but she's too scared to check. Rachel says she's starting to hear the hum in her head, not just her ears, and it's whispering things she can't understand. I told her she's stronger than she knows, and to call me tomorrow. I'm worried she's close to giving up. The military's pulling back even more. I caught a broadcast last night, and it was short, like they're running out of time. They've abandoned most of the checkpoints, and the airstrikes are slowing down. A woman named Maria, hiding in a motel near Route 19, called in about a military convoy she saw yesterday. They were heading away from Redding, not toward it, and they looked. Beat trucks damaged, soldiers limping. Maria says the soldiers didn't stop, didn't even look at the motel, like they were running from something. She's alone, living off vending machine snacks, and the motel's surrounded by glowing patches. Last night, she saw a shape outside. Her window not moving, just staring. She hid under the bed until it left, but she's sure it knew she was there. Maria's planning to stay put, but the motel's power is out, and her radio's battery is dying. I told her to conserve it, and call me when she can. I'm hoping she's safe. Paul's group, still chasing Sector 7, is getting closer. He called. This evening, and he sounded tense but determined. They're in a town called Clearview, maybe a day's walk from where Paul thinks Sector 7 is. The signal about the haven came through again last night, and Paul caught a full sentence. This time, Sector 7 is holding. Coordinates follow. The coordinates were garbled, but Paul's got a map, and he's piecing it together. The kids are struggling. Claire's daughter keeps asking for her dad, and her son stopped talking altogether. They found a little. Food in Clearview, some canned soup in an abandoned house, but the water's all glowing now. Last night, they hid in a church, and Claire saw a shape outside, placing a glowing orb in the graveyard. The hum got so loud it woke the kids, and Paul's worried the shapes are tracking them. He's keeping his group moving, but they're exhausted. I told him to stay sharp and call me when he reaches Sector 7. I'm starting to hope it's real. But I'm scared it's not. The pulse is changing the world in ways I can't wrap my head around. A man named Leo, hiding in a school near Port Ellis, called in with a story that's hard to believe. He says the school's walls are moving, not collapsing, but shifting like they're alive. The bricks are softening, and glowing lines are spreading through them, forming patterns Leo can't understand. He's been hearing noises inside the walls, not just the hum but clicks, like something's working. Leo's alone, surviving on cafeteria leftovers, but he's starting to think the pulse is turning the school into something else, maybe a part of itself. He saw a shape inside the school last night, not gliding but standing still, its tendrils touching the glowing lines. Leo hid in a closet until it left, but he's sure it was doing something to the building. He's planning to leave tomorrow, head toward the hills, but the streets are thick with shapes. I told him to move quietly and call me when he's safe. I'm hoping he makes it. The shapes are getting more complex. A woman named Sarah, hiding in a warehouse on Route 42, called in with a story that stuck with me. She says she saw a group of shapes, maybe 20, working together in a parking lot last night. They weren't just placing orbs. They were assembling something, a structure made of glowing metal and pulsing earth, like the one Owen saw in New Haven. Sarah says it was tall, maybe 30 feet, and it hummed so loud it shook the warehouse windows. The shapes moved like they were following a blueprint, each one knowing its role. Sarah's low on supplies, and the warehouse is starting to glow, with lines creeping up the walls. She's planning to stay put, but she's scared the shapes are building something bigger, something that's almost done. I told her to stay hidden and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she's okay. I've been thinking about what we're fighting for. The pulse is rewriting everything: people, buildings, the ground we walk on. But the survivors: Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Tess, Rachel, Paul, Leo, Sarah, they're still out there, still pushing back. Every call I get is a reminder that we're not done yet, that we're still human, still connected. That's why I keep this signal going, why I keep talking. You're listening, and that's enough to keep me here. Before I sign off, I want to share one more thing. A man named Daniel, calling from a barn near Route 29, reached out last night. He's been watching the shapes from a distance, and he says they're not just building structures, they're changing the sky. Last night, he saw a group of shapes gathered in a field, their orbs glowing brighter than usual. The air above them shimmered, and Daniel swears he saw a shape in the sky, not a ship, but something massive, like a city that wasn't fully there. He's alone, with barely any food, and the barn's surrounded by glowing patches. I told him to stay quiet and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping he's wrong about what he saw, but I'm scared he's not, back inside, locking him in a bathroom this time. Maya says his skin feels different now, almost like it's vibrating. The group's out of food and water, and the library's walls are glowing brighter, with cracks spreading like veins. Sophie's barely responsive, sitting in a corner, rocking back and forth. Karen, the woman who wanted to run, slipped out. Yesterday and didn't come back. Maya found glowing footprints leading to a patch outside. The remaining adults are too scared to talk, and Maya's hearing the hum inside her head now, whispering words she can't make out. She's trying to keep everyone together, but she's not sure why anymore. I told her she's stronger than she knows, and to call me tomorrow. Her voice was so hollow, I'm scared she's giving up. Javier's still in Benton, hiding in that grocery store basement, but it's getting dangerous. He called this afternoon, whispering so quietly I could barely hear him. The shapes are all over the town now, more than he can count, and they're not just patrolling, they're guarding something. Javier says there's a structure in the town square, like the one Sarah saw, made of glowing metal and pulsing earth. It's bigger now, maybe 40 feet tall, and it hums so loud it makes his teeth ache. He saw shapes adding to it last night, carrying pieces of twisted metal and placing orbs around its base. The glowing patches are spreading faster, covering the streets, and Javier's sure the structure's controlling them somehow. The store's basement is starting to glow too, with thin lines creeping down the walls. Javier's down to his last pickle jar, and the footsteps above are getting louder, not gliding, but heavy, like something new is walking. He's planning to slip out tonight, head for the river, but the town's locked down by shapes. I told him to move fast and call me when he's clear. He's been tough so far, but I can hear the panic creeping in. Nora's group in the mountains is on the edge. She called this evening, her voice tight with fear. The glowing patches are inside the ranger station's perimeter now, right up against the walls. The shapes are circling closer, and last night one of them touched the station's door, leaving a glowing handprint that's still there. Nora says the handprint pulses, like it's alive, and the hum's so strong it's making everyone dizzy. The group's out of power, no generator, no lights, just a few candles. Food's down to a couple of cans, and Diane, the woman who wanted to leave, took off this morning with Lee. They didn't say where they were going, and Nora hasn't heard from them since. The 4 left are sticking with Nora, but they're scared, and the cold's getting worse without heat. Nora's sketches show the shapes moving in a pattern around the station, like they're sealing it off. She's not sure if they're waiting for something or preparing to move in. I told her to barricade the doors and call me tomorrow. She's been a rock for her group, but I'm worried they're running out of time. Sam and Tess are still pushing toward the lake, but it's slow going. They called this morning from a shed they found near the farmhouse. Sam's leg is worse, the glow's spread to his knee, and he's limping bad. Tess is keeping him moving, but she's worried the pulse is taking hold of him. They're out of water, and the food's gone. Tess gave Sam the last peach slice yesterday. Last night, they saw the tower-like structure Tess described, but it's bigger now, and there's more than one. They counted 3 in the distance, each humming and surrounded by shapes. Tess says the shapes are different, now some are taller, with extra limbs that move like whips. They're not just building, they're protecting the structures, chasing off anything that gets close. Sam and Tess hid when a shape passed by, its body flashing with light like it was signaling others. They're planning to reach the lake tomorrow, but the glowing patches are thick, and Sam's slowing down. I told them to stay together and call me when they get there. Tess is keeping Sam's spirits up, but I'm scared for them, Rachel in. Elton didn't call today, and that's got me worried. Yesterday, she sounded like she was at her limit, with Walter glowing and the safe house falling apart. I've been trying to reach her, but the line's just static. I'm hoping her radio's battery died, or she's laying low, but I can't shake the feeling something's wrong. The last thing she said was that the hum was in her head, whispering, and I'm scared it got to her. If you're out there, Rachel, please call. You're stronger than you think, and we need to hear from you. I'll keep the channel open for you. Maria, in the motel near Route 19, called this afternoon, and she's in bad shape. The motel's surrounded by glowing patches, and the shapes are closer than ever. Last night, she saw one inside the motel, gliding through the hallway. She hid in a closet, holding her breath, and it passed by, but she's sure it was looking. For her, the vending machine food's gone, and her radio's barely working one more call, maybe two, before it dies. Maria says the motel's walls are glowing now, with patterns that shift like they're alive. She's planning to make a run for it tomorrow, head for a forest she saw in the distance, but the shapes are everywhere. I told her to move at dawn and call me if she can. She's alone, and her voice was shaking, but she's still fighting. I'm hoping she makes it. Paul's group is almost at Sector 7, or what they hope is Sector 7. He called this evening, and he sounded exhausted but focused. They're in a valley just outside a place called Pine Ridge, where Paul thinks the coordinates point. The signal about the haven came through again last night, and it was clear enough to confirm a location, but it cut off before giving details. Paul's group is out of food, and the kids are struggling. Claire's son is sick, feverish, and Claire's carrying him now. They found a stream, but it's glowing, so they're rationing the last of their water. Last night they hid in a cave, and Paul saw a shape nearby, not carrying an orb, but something else, a long, glowing rod that hummed louder than anything he's heard. The shape planted it in the ground, and the valley started pulsing like it was waking up. Paul's group moved before dawn, but he's worried the shapes are following them. He's determined to reach Sector 7, but he's not sure what they'll find. I told him to keep moving and call me when he gets there. I'm praying it's real, for their sake. The pulse is doing things to the world I can't explain. A woman named Ellen, hiding in a church near Route 17, called in with a story. That's hard to process. She says the church's stained glass windows are changing, not breaking, but shifting, the colors moving like liquid. The pews are glowing, and the air inside feels alive, humming with a rhythm that's not just the pulse. Ellen's been hearing voices in the hum, not words but feelings, urging her to walk outside. She's resisting, but it's hard. She's alone, with just a few cans of soup left. Last night, she saw a shape in the churchyard, not moving but growing, its body stretching upward like it was merging with the sky. Ellen's planning to stay put, but the church feels less safe every day. I told her to block the doors and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she can hold out. The shapes are building faster now, and it's starting to feel like a countdown. A man named Caleb, hiding in a factory near Port Alice, called in with a story that stuck with me. He says the shapes are constructing something massive in the city, a network of structures, like the ones Sarah and Owen saw, connected by glowing lines in the ground. Caleb says it's not just one building. It's a grid stretching across blocks, with towers at every intersection. The shapes are working non-stop, adding pieces of glowing metal and planting orbs that pulse in sync. Caleb's factory is glowing. Now too, with lines crawling up the walls, and he's hearing clicks inside them like machinery. He's low on food, and the shapes are outside every night, closer each time. He's planning to make a run for the hills tomorrow, but the city's locked down. I told him to move quietly and call me when he's safe. I'm hoping he's wrong about the grid, but I'm scared he's not. I've been thinking about what this all means. The pulse isn't just changing the world, it's replacing it. The structures, the glowing lines, the shapes, signals, it's all part of a plan, something bigger than we can see. But the survivors, Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Tess, Maria, Paul, Ellen, Caleb, they're still out there, still fighting to stay human. Every call I get is a reminder that we're not done, that we're still connected. That's why I keep this mic on, why I keep broadcasting. You're listening, and that's enough to keep me going. Before I wrap up, I want to share one last story. A woman named Grace, calling from a rooftop in Reading, reached out last night. She's been up there 4 days, watching the shapes build a structure in the town center. She says it's different from the others, not a tower, but a dome glowing so bright it lights up the night. Grace saw shapes inside it, not working but standing still, their bodies pulsing in unison. She says the hum from the dome is different, deeper, like it's calling something. Grace is out of supplies, and the rooftop's exposed, but she's too scared to climb down. Last night, she saw something in the sky above the dome, a shadow, massive, moving like it was alive. She's not sure what it was, but it's got her shaken. I told her to stay hidden and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping. She's okay, but I'm scared for her, is barely holding on. She called this morning, her voice so soft I had to press the radio to my ear. The glowing lines in the library's walls are everywhere now, pulsing like a heartbeat, and the hum's so loud it's cracking the ceiling. Eli's locked in the bathroom, but Maya says he's not fighting anymore, just sits there, glowing. Brighter, humming in a way that makes her skin crawl. Last night, Sophie started humming too, faint at first, but Maya's scared it's spreading. The group's out of everything, no food, no water, and the air's so thick it's hard to breathe. One of the adults, a man named Tom, tried to leave yesterday, saying he'd find help, but Maya hasn't heard from him since. She found glowing footprints outside, leading to a patch that wasn't there before. Maya's hearing the whispers in the hum now, clearer, telling her to join them. She's fighting it, but she's so tired. I told her she's the heart of that group and to call me tomorrow. I'm scared for her, but I'm hoping she's got one more fight left. Javier's still in that grocery store basement in Benton, but it's not safe anymore. He called this afternoon, whispering like he was afraid the shapes would hear. The structure in the town square is massive now, maybe 50 feet tall, and Javier says it's not just glowing, it's moving, like it's alive. He saw shapes adding to it last night, carrying glowing orbs and strange, twisted metal that hummed when they touched it. The glowing patches are all over Benton, and Javier says the basement's walls are starting to glow too, with lines that shift like they're drawing themselves. He's out of food, and the noises above those heavy footsteps are constant now. Javier thinks something new is with the shapes, something bigger, but he hasn't seen it. He's planning to make a run for the river tonight, even though it's glowing. I told him to move fast and call me when he's safe. He's been dodging the pulse for days, and I'm amazed he's still going, but I can feel his fear through the radio, Nora's group in the mountains is in bad shape. She called this evening, and her voice was sharp, like she's running on nothing but will. The glowing patches are inside the ranger station's walls now, creeping up the stairs. The shapes are closer than ever last night. 3 stood outside, their bodies flashing with light like they were talking to each other. Nora's group is out of power, down to a single flashlight, and the cold's biting hard. Food's gone, and the 4 left are arguing about what to do. Nora's trying to keep them together, but one of them, a man named Ben, keeps saying the hum's telling him to walk into the patches. She's watching him close, but she's exhausted. Nora says the shape's perimeter around the station is tighter like a noose. She saw one carrying a glowing rod yesterday, not an orb, and when it planted it in the ground, the hum got louder and the patches spread faster. I told her to hold the group tight and call me tomorrow. She's been there. Strength, but I'm worried they're out of time. Sam and Tess are still pushing for the lake, but it's getting harder. They called this morning from a ditch they're hiding in, a few miles from the farmhouse. Sam's leg is worse that glows up to his thigh, and he can barely walk. Tess is half carrying him now, but she's running out of strength. There, out of food and water, and the glowing patches are everywhere, making it hard to move. Last night, they saw one of the tower-like structures, bigger than before, with shapes crawling over it like ants. Tess says the shapes are changing. Some have extra limbs, others are taller, and they move faster, like they're adapting. They're not just building. They're guarding the structures, chasing anything that gets close. Tess saw a shape flash, its body with light, and others answered, like a signal. Sam's scared he's turning into something else, but Tess won't let him give up. They're hoping to reach the lake tomorrow, but the shapes are closing in. I told them to keep moving and call me when they get there. Tess is fierce, and Sam's tougher than he knows, but I'm scared for them. Rachel and Elton didn't call again, and the silence is heavy. Yesterday, she was hearing whispers in the hum, and the safe house was falling apart. I've been trying to reach her, but it's just static. I'm hoping she's hiding, maybe out of battery, but I'm scared the pulse got to her and her group. If you're out there, Rachel, please call. You've been a lifeline for those people, and we need to hear from you. I'll keep the channel open, just in case. Maria, in the motel near Route 19, called this afternoon, and she's hanging on by a thread. The motel's walls are glowing now, with patterns that move like waves, and the shapes are inside the building. Last night, she saw one glide past her door, its tendrils brushing the wall, leaving glowing marks. Maria hid under the bed, and it didn't find her, but she's sure it knew she was there. She's out of food, and her radio's on its last gasp. One call left, maybe. The glowing patches are so thick outside she can't see the road anymore. Maria's planning to run for the forest at dawn, but she's alone, and her voice was shaking. I told her to move quietly and call me if she can. She's been fighting this whole time, and I'm hoping she makes it. Paul's group is closer to Sector 7, and he's holding on to hope. He called this evening from a barn just outside Pine Ridge, where he thinks the coordinates point. The Haven signal came through again last night, clear, saying Sector 7 resists. Hold fast. Paul's not sure what it means, but it's enough to keep him going. Claire and her kids are struggling. The boy's fever is worse, and Claire's daughter keeps staring at the glowing patches, like she's drawn to them. They're out of water, and the food's gone. Last night, in the barn, Paul saw a shape outside, not with an orb, but a glowing cube, bigger than the orbs, humming so loud it shook the walls. When it planted the cube, the ground pulsed and knew. Patches spread. Paul's group slipped out before dawn, but he's worried the shapes are tracking them. He's pushing for Sector 7, hoping it's real. I told him to stay sharp and call me when he gets there. I want to believe there's a safe place, but I'm scared it's a trap. The pulse is reshaping everything. A man named Victor, hiding in a store near Route 42, called in with a story that's hard to swallow. He says the ground outside is moving, not shaking, but rippling like water. The glowing patches aren't just spreading. They're connecting, forming lines that stretch across the town. Victor saw a shape yesterday, not gliding but kneeling, its tendrils in the ground, like it was planting something. The air around. It shimmered, and Victor swears he saw a faint shape in the sky, like a tower that wasn't fully there. He's alone, with a few cans of beans left, and the store's walls are glowing, humming softly. He's planning to head for the hills tomorrow, but the shapes are everywhere. I told him to move at night and call me when he's safe. I'm hoping he's wrong about the sky, but I'm scared he's not. The shapes are working faster, and it's starting to feel like they're finishing something. A woman named Laura, hiding in a school near Reading, called in with a story that stuck with me. She says the shapes are building a massive structure in the town center, not a tower but a sphere, glowing so bright it hurts to look at. Last night, she saw shapes inside it, not moving but standing in a circle, their bodies pulsing together. Laura says the hum from the sphere is different, almost like a voice, calling out. The school's walls are glowing, and the air feels heavy, like it's pressing her down. She's low on supplies, and the shapes are outside every night, closer each time. She's too scared to leave, but staying feels just as bad. I told her to stay hidden and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she's okay, but I'm worried about what she saw. I've been thinking about what we're up against. The pulse isn't just taking over, it's building a new world, one we don't belong in. The structures, the glowing lines, the shapes, signals, they're all part of something huge, something we can't stop. But the survivors, Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Tess, Maria, Paul, Victor, Laura, they're still fighting, still holding on to who they are. Every call I get is a reminder that we're not gone yet, that we're still here, still human. That's why I keep this signal alive, why I keep talking. You're out there listening, and that's enough to keep me going. Before I sign off, I want to share one more thing. A man named Ethan, calling from a rooftop in Port Alice, reached out last night. He's been watching the shapes build a network of structures across the city, connected by glowing lines that pulse like arteries. Ethan says it's not just buildings, it's a system, alive, growing. Last night, he saw something above the city, a shadow in the sky, massive, moving like it was watching. The shapes below stopped, their bodies flashing in sync like they were answering it. Ethan's out of food, and the rooftops exposed, but he's too scared to move. I told him to stay low and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping he's safe, but I'm scared he's right about what he saw. This is Richard Radio, still broadcasting, still here for you. The pulse is closing in, and the shapes are building something we can't understand. But we're still fighting, still telling our stories. Keep moving, keep hiding, and if you can, reach out. Your voice is what keeps us together. Wave 88 is still on, and I'll be back as long as I can. Stay safe, stay strong, and don't give up. We're in this together. It's day 12, and the signal's getting weaker, but I'm still here, talking to you through Wave 88. This is Richard Radio, holding on in my booth, with the pulse humming so loud it's rattling the windows. The shapes are finishing something, and the world's almost unrecognizable, but your stories have kept me going. Let's wrap this up with what I've heard, because we're still in this together, and I'm not signing off yet. Maya's group in the New Haven library didn't call today, and the silence is crushing. Yesterday, Maya was fighting to keep Eli locked up, with Sophie humming and the library glowing like a beacon. I've been calling out to her, but it's just static. Last night, I got a faint signal from New Haven, not Maya, but someone else. A man named Carl, who said he passed the library. He saw it glowing from the inside, brighter than anything, with shapes gathered outside, not moving, just watching. Carl didn't get close, but he said the hum was so strong it made him dizzy. And he heard voices in it, saying, "It's done." I'm scared Maya and her group are gone, taken by the pulse or worse. If you're out there, Maya, please call. You fought harder than anyone, and I'll keep the channel open for you. Javier made it to the river outside Benton, but he's not safe. He called this morning from a boathouse he found, his voice shaky and weak. He slipped out of the grocery store last night, limping on his twisted leg, and barely dodged a shape that followed him. He says the river's glowing, pulsing like the structures, and the air feels alive, pressing down on him. The structure in Benton's town square is finished now, a towering sphere that hums so loud it drowns out everything. Javier saw shapes. Around it, not working but standing in a circle, their bodies flashing in sync. He's out of food, and his legs swelling, with faint glowing lines under the skin. The boathouse is flimsy, and he's hearing noises outside, not footsteps, but a low hum, like something's waiting. Javier says he's done running. He's too tired. I told him he's stronger than he thinks, and to call me tomorrow. He didn't. Sound convinced, and I'm scared it's the last I'll hear from him. Nora's group in the mountains is gone, or close to it. She called this afternoon, her voice breaking. The glowing patches broke through the ranger station's walls last night, and the shapes followed. Nora says they didn't attack, they just stood there, their tendrils touching the glowing lines, like they were activating something. The hum was unbearable, and Ben, the man who heard voices, walked into a patch, smiling, before anyone could stop him. The others panicked, and 2 more ran, leaving Nora alone. She's got no food, no light, and the station's walls are pulsing, closing in. Nora saw something in the sky this morning, a shadow, huge, like a city that wasn't fully there. She's not sure what's left to do. The shapes are outside, and the hum's in her head, whispering, "Come home." I told her she's been their anchor, and to call me if she can. Her signal cut off mid-sentence, and I'm scared she's gone. Nora, if you're listening, keep fighting. We need you. Sam and Tess reached the lake, but it's not what they hoped. They called this morning from a cabin they found on the shore. Sam's leg is useless now, the glow's spread to his hip, and he's feverish, barely talking. Tess is keeping him alive, but she's out of supplies, and the lake's glowing, its surface rippling like it's alive. They saw a structure nearby, like the ones before, but this one's different, a dome, glowing bright, with shapes inside, moving in patterns. Tess says the shapes are faster now, their extra limbs whipping through the air, and they're not just guarding the dome, they're calling something. Last night, Tess saw lights in the sky, not stars but pulses, answering the dome's hum. Sam's scared he's changing, and Tess is hearing the hum in her head, faint but growing. They're planning to stay in the cabin, but the shapes are closing in, and Tess isn't sure how long they can hide. I told them they're tougher than the pulse, and to call me tomorrow. Tess's voice was steady, but I'm worried they're running out of time. Maria, in the motel near Route 19, didn't call today. Yesterday, she was planning to run for the forest, with shapes inside the motel and her radio dying. I've been trying to reach her, but it's just static. I'm hoping she made it out, maybe found cover, but the motel was surrounded, and I'm scared the shapes got her. Maria, if you're out there, call me. You've been fighting alone, and we need to know you're okay. I'll keep the channel open. Paul's group reached Sector 7, or what's left of it. He called this evening from a bunker in Pine Ridge, his voice a mix of relief and fear. The Haven's signal led them to a hidden outpost, a concrete shelter buried in the hills. It's real there are survivors, maybe 30, with food, water, and a generator. But it's not safe. Paul says the pulse is close, with glowing patches creeping up the valley, and shapes patrolling nearby. The bunker's leader, a woman named Ruth, says they've been holding out for weeks, fighting off the pulse with scavenged weapons. Claire's kids are alive, but her son's fever is worse, and the bunker's medic doesn't have the right supplies. Last night, Paul saw a shape outside, planting a glowing cube that made the ground shake. The bunker's holding, but Ruth says the shapes are testing it, and the hum's getting louder, whispering to some of the survivors. Paul's group is staying, helping reinforce the bunker, but he's not sure how long it'll last. I told him he's found hope, and to call me tomorrow. Sector 7 is real, but it's not the end I'm hoping it's a start. The pulse is finishing. It's work. A man named Henry, hiding in a barn near Route 42, called in with a story that's hard to process. He says the ground around him is alive, not just glowing but moving, forming patterns that stretch for miles. The barn's walls are glowing, with lines that hum like wires, and Henry saw a shape yesterday, not gliding but merging with the ground, its body dissolving into a glowing patch. The sky above was shimmering, and Henry swears he saw a structure. Up there, faint, like a city taking shape. He's out of food, and the barn's surrounded by shapes, not attacking but watching. Henry's planning to stay put, but he's hearing the hum in his head, urging him to walk outside. I told him to fight it and call me tomorrow. I'm hoping he's strong enough, but I'm scared he's not. The shapes are completing something massive. A woman named Alice, hiding in a church near Reading, called in with a story that stuck with me. She says the sphere in the town's center is finished, glowing so bright it lights up the sky. Last night, she saw shapes inside, not standing but floating, their bodies pulsing in a rhythm that matched the hum. Alice says the hum's a voice now, not words but a feeling, telling her it's over. The church's walls are glowing, and the air's so heavy she can barely move. She's out of supplies, and shapes are outside, not attacking but waiting. Alice is too scared to leave, but staying feels worse. I told her she's not alone and to call me tomorrow. I'm hoping she's okay, but I'm scared for what she's seen. I've been thinking about what we've lost and what we're still holding on to. The pulse has changed everything: the ground, the sky, the people we love. The shapes have built their world, and it's not ours anymore. But the survivors: Maya, Javier, Nora, Sam, Tess, Paul, Henry, Alice, they've fought with everything. They had. Every call I've gotten has been a spark, a reminder that we're still here, still telling our stories. Sector 7 is out there, holding on, and maybe there are other places, other voices we haven't heard yet. That's why I've kept this mic on, why I've kept broadcasting. You're listening, and that's enough to keep me here. Before I sign off, I want to share one last story. A man named David, calling from a rooftop in New Haven, reached out. Last night, He's been watching the shapes finish their network, a grid of glowing structures, connected by lines that pulse like a heartbeat. David says it's not just a city. It's a machine alive, humming with purpose. Last night, he saw the sky change a shadow, massive, covering the stars, with lights flashing inside it. The shapes below answered, their bodies glowing brighter. And the hum became a roar. David's out of food, and the rooftops glowing, creeping up the walls. He's not sure what's coming, but he's not running. He says he wants to see it, to understand. I told him he's braver than most, and to call me if he can. I'm hoping he's safe, but I'm scared he's right about what's coming. This is Richard Radio, signing off for now. The pulse has taken. So much, but it hasn't taken us. Sector 7E's fighting, and so are you, wherever you are. Keep moving, keep hiding. Keep telling your stories. If you're out there, find a radio, find a signal, and reach out. We're still here, still human, still together. Wave 88 is going quiet for now, but I'll be back if I can. Stay safe, stay strong, and don't give up. This isn't the end.